All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Coffee and Cigars live stream. We're here live, and I am building fire. So, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the show. It is September 12th, and I am just trying to get this fire started. My niece had a soccer game today, so I went to go watch that, and now I'm trying to get back in time to start the show. And I'm just trying to put some wood here in the fire. You can kind of see it here. All right, so that's hopefully going to start up, catch fire with us. Mom's with us. What's going on, Bryant? How are you, man? Good to see you. Good evening to you as well. Trying to get this fire started up here. I'm using some leftover lumber. Hopefully that'll catch. One of them might be, I think it's all just regular pine. Oh, that's not working. Let's get some more heat and some bellows on this thing. I think what we need to do is get some use the bellows to see if we can help ignite this more. So how's your guys' week been? It's been all right. I got some Diet Coke boxes in here. Trying to see if that'll be enough to, it's kindling to start up the flames. Catch the wood on fire, hopefully. Here's a piece. Oh, darn it. Should probably go there. Oh no, that's not working. That did not work out well. I need more fire starter. This is nuts. Some days it just works, some days it doesn't work. Who's with us tonight? Oh, Craig's with us. How are things up in Ottawa there? George, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Good evening to you as well. And Tony's with us. What's going on? So where's everybody tonight? You guys are all out, or? Now I've got the box burning. I don't know if it's going to actually light the flame, light the wood on fire. I think we got something lit. Looks like the wood at the bottom that's from the last fire is ignited. Okay. Time for this monster to go in. We've got these oversized, kind of loggy things. We'll see if that can remain. That's good. Oh, I think I put it out now. Son of a gun. Okay, that's not working. Oh, pain in the butt. I really should just be using fat wood to do this, but okay, hopefully that'll get us going. All right, while that burns, let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome back. Good to see you. Devin's with us. What's up, Devin? Good to have you. Tony says, you don't have any empty revenge boxes? They would, well, yeah, but we're supposedly saving those for, a project that we still haven't done. Who knows if we're ever going to get that done. But, not knives, stupid. Oh, yeah, I get it. So what's going on, everybody? Everyone's doing well? Today we got some cigars we're going to smoke. We're going to do a little bit of a different thing than we normally do. A few years, well, all of you guys know RoMa Craft, right? So RoMa Craft is this company based in San Antonio, in Austin, Texas, owned by Skip and Mike Rosales. And they make a cigar line called the CroMagnon. For whatever reason, the CroMagnon original line was a Connecticut Broadleaf wrapped cigar that, for whatever reason, they could no longer get the Connecticut Broadleaf. Maybe Tony knows this story better than I do. But whatever the case, he couldn't get a reliable source. And so they made a switch this past year to wrapping that line in a Pennsylvania Broadleaf. So Connecticut Broadleaf to Pennsylvania Broadleaf. And now that's what they're using. And so I thought, you know what, I found out that I had one of the older Magnons. And, of course, the Pennsylvanias are much more available today. And I thought, let's put them head to head and see how they do. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go EMHs, Connecticut and Pennsylvania Broadleaf, and look at the fire. It's really rolling now. So finally we're rolling. So that's a good thing. Now I've got these cigars here in our humidor. And if you look at the description, you'll see that we actually have a schedule now for all the shows for the next 6 weeks. I think it is 6 weeks as well as a schedule for all of the different cigars. We've got the CroMagnon this weekend. It's kind of going to be a CroMagnon Arturo Fuente fest for the next month or so. We're going to do the CroMagnon today. Then we're going to go and do the Rare Pink on the next show, which will actually be 2 weeks from now, because next week, that's 19th, we're going to have a hiatus on here, while because next week Thursday, the 19th, is the second anniversary of Capital Cigar and Tobacco down in Bethesda, and I thought, I'm just going to go. So I'm going to go to that. If you guys want to come down and join us, it's their second anniversary. They're having all this stuff. If you look at their Instagram, Capital Cigar and Tobacco on Instagram, they've got a bunch of posts talking about it's going to be one of the guy Tom from My Father's going to be there. A lot of My Father stuff, so should be kind of fun, and maybe just more of a social interaction than something where we have to constantly babble on for 2 hours at a time, right? Tony says not consistent supply for the quality they need. Oh, okay, that totally makes sense. And then after that, we're going to come back to review a cigar that we actually smoked on a previous show. So remember when Sean Coleman came and released the RoMa Craft Maquette Lightweight Heavy? We were smoking at the event down in Capitol, but because excuse me, but because it was the event there, we didn't really have the time. It's really not a fair thing to do to try to be critical. So that we just kind of hung out. And this time we're going to come back and actually taste it and give it a rating. The week after that, we're going to come back with the personal resort of Don Carlos from Arturo Fuente, one of these fancy cigars, $28. And then after that, we're going to come back with the new La Maquette, the what's it called? La Maestranza. And that's going to round out the next like a month and a half or so. All right, so let's get into what we've got. I had also got an EMH from the Aquitaine line, which is another offshoot. But I think maybe 3 cigars at one time is going to be a little bit much. So we're not going to do that today. Maybe that's a little bit too crazy. But right now we've got our 2 cigars. The original, is that right? Yeah. The original Connecticut Broadleaf wrapped CroMagnon EMH. This is a 5x56. Is that right? 5x56. And then the new one. You can always tell the new one because it got this silver lettering, like was printed with a dynamo, like a dymo. Remember those dymo things? And you made little labels. You cut them out, and then they stuck them on. So it's got that style of like lettering on it, CroMagnon. Right? So we're gonna put them head to head and see what we can see. Let me get our little notation score sheet together, because we do want to make notations on our experience for the day. So we're going to do first the Connecticut and then the PA. All right. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to turn up the lighting just a little bit, because it feels a little bit dark. Looks like it's a little bit dark, a little bit too cinematic, and also it feels a little bit dark here in person. And I should add some more wood to the fire. Uh-oh. I gotta fix that. Sorry, just gotta do some housekeeping here. You can kind of see what's happening here. The fire is collapsing or something like that. Oh, just want to adjust this. Well, I should put the handle not in the fire. All right. The fire's running good. Ooh, better lighting. Okay, good. Let's start off with the Connecticut Broadleaf. Looks fairly nice, you know, nice, kind of like feels oily. Nice wrapper. Slightly rough. I mean, that's just kind of the texture, but looks nice. Brian says, I just tuned in, couldn't figure out what I was looking at. Must have seen my balls. That's what it was, okay? Now let's have a look at the newer Pennsylvania Broadleaf. Now, I think I picked this up back a few months ago when I was at Widmer's in Pennsylvania. And this one I picked up from the local tobacco shop where I live. These are the EMHs. You know, the feeling is relatively the same. Okay, so the Pennsylvania, now that's the Connecticut, sweet, spicy manure, barnyard. Then our Pennsylvania, a little bit more smoky. So so barnyard, sweet, smoky manure. Okay, okay. Now where is the cutter? My cutter is here in my hand. I'm going to be cutting our number one cigar, our Connecticut cigar. Cigar MTX cutter. Cigar, we welcome any level of sponsorship for this. Cut that off. Okay. All right, George, what's going on, George? Good to see you. Good to see you. So the draw, a little bit tight, but smooth. Some sweetness on the draw, the cold draw, but nothing really very pronounced. Okay, let's cut up this PA. Mm. A little more flavor on the cut here. I think if the fiddle tobaccos have a little more flavor because as I'm touching my tongue to it, I get a little more sensation. What is that? There's definitely a flavor on this one that's a little more pronounced, maybe a little more Christmassy, maybe like a canela, like canela pepper. Yeah, canela and like black pepper. George says earthier flavors and aroma. Ah, yes, yes. And then Devin, I do like two at a time sometimes for a comparison. Yeah, this is actually my very first time that I'm going to do something like this. Even in my normal life, I don't think I've ever really done a head-to-head comparison. But I think it should be kind of fascinating to try, you know. George says more funk from the true Connecticut leaf. Ah, yes. Really? Do I get more funk? You know, this reminds me that this Minori of the PA reminds me of the Arapiraca wrapper. Not to say they're the same, but there's a reminder, a reminiscence. I gotcha. I gotcha. No worries about that, CR. Okay, so let's do some lighting. First of all, let's go and do our cold draw. Our first category, of course, is fragrance and cold draw. I think they're very good. Maybe like a very good plus, like an 8.25. And I'm going to say that's true for both. They're just different in the way that they represent themselves. Devin says, then smoke. You know, I need to turn up I think I need to turn the brightness on my screen more. Then smoke at the same time, at the same pace as one. Hopefully they don't go out from the delay. Hopefully they won't. Hopefully they won't. All right, we're gonna light the Connecticut first. Oh, that fire is starting to get pretty heavy duty. I'm gonna rotate the cigar back and forth over the bottom, rotate around. Okay. Some darker colors. I would describe this flavor as a darker, moody, brooding, maybe sinister. All right, let's light the other one. Oh shoot! Some of the wood is falling out, about to burn me. The draw, immediately the draw is easier on the Pennsylvania. Can I grab this? Okay. And close that grate a little bit so I don't get burned. The draw is easier. It's spicier. Where this one, dark, brooding, sinister, this is spicier, lively, easier drawing. The lightsaber returns. Absolutely, absolutely. And George says, funny, I'm smoking both of the 2012 Tatuai Kohonu wrappers, Tuxlas San Andres, and the Habano. Oh, nice, nice. Oh, yeah, the lightsaber. Tony says, I must go retrieve my beverage and we'll... All right. Safe journey, my friend. Safe journey. Oh, George says something here. George says, I should do this with the wise man one from Foundation and my father. Forget it, I have their palate of... That's right. I'm wondering if this is going to end in disaster as well. You know, I'm like, oh. George says, go get the Dire Tray Pepsi. I do wonder, like, if you really enjoyed a cigar, like, what if you double fisted the same cigar? Would that give you double the pleasure? Would it last twice as long? No. There definitely is a big difference between these two. Like, it's unmistakable, especially when you're smoking them back to back, or actually head to head. Definitely darker, more broody. This is more sprightly, more... A little bit of brighter tones. Devin says to remember to smoke. So you're right, Devin. You're right, Devin. Gotta slow down, not go too crazy. No, I got double fisting here, double fisting. I'm going to hold that from that's the epic picture so that I can come back later and screenshot this. Hopefully the transmission looks good. I just heard some rumbling. Does that mean it's going to rain? That would be unfortunate. George says that the Connecticut is cleaner than the PA. I don't know. I mean, they're very different. Like, they're quite different. Like, I was thinking, like, as you know, that I'm a big Revenge fan. So that's the Intemperance BA21, which is using the Brazil Arapiraca wrapper and a different blend of binder fillers. The CroMagnon, I've smoked a few of them over the years. I even was Skip one time when we were hanging out at headquarters in Austin. He even gave me one of the original releases without the band. And I've enjoyed them, but they were never really the one that appealed to me the most, right? But it's got a nice, dark, lush, rich, deeper, brooding character, where this one is plainly different. It's lighter in body. It's not brooding. It's not dark. It's not sinister. And I don't mean those as necessarily negative or pejorative statements. Those are actually kind of like, you kind of want to have that, like, you want to be evil. Nobody wants really to be Austin. Only when Austin Powers is getting the girl, nobody wants to be Austin Powers. Everybody wants to be Dr. Evil, right? Yeah, this is really, really different. Really different. Like smoking them head to head at this juncture, and it's really early. But it does make me wonder, why would you want to give this the mantle of this when they really are quite a bit different? Devin says, George, I love the Havana. Nice, nice. And George Sham says, Jay looks like Sandy Sam without the cowboy. I should have brought the cowboy hat out. Now, our burn, of course, this one's a little bit, this is a little bit faster, looks like. And this is the Connecticut. The Pennsylvania seems to be burning a little bit faster, which maybe it makes sense because this feels thicker, right? It feels like it's more tobacco or tighter tobacco, where this feels a little bit lighter. Now, I don't know if this is something you would notice if you were smoking them on totally different occasions, but when you're holding them head to head, you can kind of feel it. No, that's not to say that any of either one would be necessarily less enjoyable than the other. They're just so far quite a bit different. Now, I have smoked most of the line of the new PA Broadleaf, and actually what I think is there's a Corona size that I think is the best embodiment of this blend. Like, that, of all the ones that I've smoked, I like that one the most. I don't know if that's true in the old school, because I didn't pay attention that much. I smoke it every once in a while. And this is the first cigar that I got in 2013 when I first learned about RoMa Craft. I was traveling to Honolulu. I was going to be in Honolulu for a couple weeks or whatever. And I called up my friend Marvin, who runs he runs a place called Arfield Winery, which does all these luxury goods and gourmet stuff. It's a gourmet store in Honolulu. We've been friends for many years. And I called him and said, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, well, we're having we're having an event at the Waikiki Yacht Club, which I'm a member. I was like, you're having an event at my club. Well, I got to go to that. And there's this new, relatively new cigar company called RoMa Craft. And it was actually, almost 10 years before that in 2004, when it was Marvin who introduced me to Tatuaje. So it was Marvin that really introduced me to Tatuaje, and that's how I learned about them. And again, and he was having Skip come out. Skip was in town, and he was at the event, and we had this event. They gave us like 5 cigars in the bundle, and these are very different cigars than what I mostly had been smoking throughout that period. Mostly, what is it? Tatuaje, Paul Gamiri and Belicosa Maduros. What else? I saw some Padrones. What else? I think I was smoking by then. I think I had started smoking no, maybe I hadn't started smoking I was going to say the Abe Flores, the reserve, the private reserve, 1975, the Maduro, but I don't remember if that was prior to that or not. But this dark brooding nature, right? It's very dark. It's very different. So it's very different than the cigars that I had been smoking. And I smoked this or this line, and they gave you a bunch of them. I smoked all 5 of them in that pack, and I really don't know if I liked them or not. I was still trying to figure out. It's such a different flavor profile than I was used to. And I don't know if I really liked it yet. That was like maybe April or maybe July or something like that. Fast forward to October, and Skip was going to be back in town doing an event at, I think it was Draper's at the time. George remembered, 2013, Capital was Draper's still, or was it still under Mike? They were having an event there, and so I went down to hang out and smoke cigars, and Skip and I were talking and hanging out a bit. And I said to him, "Hey, man, what cigar should I buy?" Because I really didn't have a preference, right? I was really still trying to figure out, like, do I even like these cigars, right? And he happened to have, at the time, the Revenges were only store exclusives for a particular store in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one more other store. And he was like, he had them at the event, and he was like, well, buy these. You can't get these anywhere else. I was like, all right, buy those. The Revenges, and I've been smoking the Revenges ever since. And that was the one that really kind of clicked for me. Tony says, back with the Diet Cherry Pepsi to go with my Grand Habano Zulu White Label Lancero. Excellent, 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 excellent. George is asking, any concerns of a nicotine rush? I'd imagine those two together has more than one Neanderthal. Perhaps I should be worried. But, we're here for YouTube glory. So what does it matter? Definitely easier drawing, easier smoking than this one. This is definitely tighter. Not in a bad way. It's tighter than this one. If I was smoking this all by itself, I wouldn't even notice it. It would be just kind of like, okay, it's a little bit snug, but it's still very comfortable to smoke. All right, now we need to get to our beverage. So let me go and, the beverage is over here again. So because this is the coffee and cigars show, we have to stay with coffee. So I swung by the Whole Foods before coming here. I'm feeling as though, look at that, the way it's burning. I think that it's not dramatic, but I think the Pennsylvania is gonna smoke faster. I feel like it is. On 2012, it would have been Drapers. Okay, 2012 would have been Drapers. It was definitely October of 2013. I think I'm gonna touch that up because it's one of those things where I think I probably didn't light it. Oh, what did cause that? So in YouTube land, there's a YouTube creator by the name of Emma Chamberlain. And I don't really know or follow Emma. The only reason I really know about Emma Chamberlain is that she's pretty famous in the world of YouTube. And like I follow some YouTube like industry podcast chat, things like that. And people always talk about Emma Chamberlain, how she's got a lot, millions of followers, very successful as a YouTuber, doing vlog style videos. And she decided she's into coffee and she created her own coffee company called Chamberlain Coffee. And I don't know anything about Chamberlain Coffee. I know she just I'm presuming she just contracts with somebody else that makes the coffee and they market, or she markets it and sells it, and she does very well with it. She makes great money doing it. But I've never had the coffee. And so I was at I'm by Whole Foods and I saw it. They had the canned stuff. So I got the canned stuff. This is the Chamberlain coffee. This is her cold brew latte. They've got a whole bunch of flavors and different, oat milks and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not into oat milk. I think oat milk is an abomination. Mainly because when people started talking about oat milk several years ago, I thought, well, we should look into maybe offering oat milk. So, my psychosis is such that we want to make it in-house if we're going to do something like we would make our own almond macadamia nut milks and things like that. We don't make our own soy milk because that's just ridiculous. But I went out and we started, trying experimenting with making oat milks. So I took some oats, soaked it in water like you would, and then sweetened it with a little bit of dates to give it some sweetness, strained it all out, drank it. Wow, delicious. Actually, quite tasty, quite enjoyable. How is it as a latte? Poured it into a steam pitcher, hit it with the steam wand, and suddenly it coagulated because basically by soaking your oats, you're getting the oat particulates into your milk. And so it's suspended in your milk. And then once you hit it, what happens to it? It becomes hydrated and heated and basically becomes oatmeal. It's a big pitcher of oatmeal with milk. It's really disgusting. You're like, oh my God, that's totally not going to work. So that experiments made me realize that in order for people to make oat milk work as a product as it is today, you have to I guess you have to polymerize it with oils, and so that it doesn't break down, so it doesn't hydrate like it does, and it stays like tight in suspension. So there's all kinds of oils and industrial processing, and I'm just against that kind of thing. Darren says, yeah, you got to hit it with some enzymes. And I think there's something wrong with it. I want it to be as natural as possible. So because of that, we never offered at Spro the oat milk. And at the time, this is probably 2015, there was no real reliable source for oat milk. We did play a little bit with some of the Kirkland product, but it was just so unreliable to source. It was just like, I forget it. Not worth it. Not worth it. Definitely easier drawing. Now, there's a little tag here. It says, I don't know what it says, but it talks about Emma. Here's the can. Cold brew latte. There's an ingredient list that I can no longer read. Oh, pleasantly, there's not very much sweetness to it. More of a natural sweetness, not like sugar's added to it. Lightly creamy, still got nice pronounced coffee flavors, some chocolate notes. Devin says, nice looking can. Yeah, she's very tasteful the way that they do her design. Like if you look at her website, I got a link to the website in the description in case you need it. Nothing to hate her on. Actually, now that I taste it, nothing to hate her on. I wasn't sure. I was kind of skeptical for a long time. Like, YouTuber with coffee. What do they know? Right? George says, never heard of her. Google search says she's only 23. Yeah, graduate, she's having tremendous success, tremendous success. Yeah, 23. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Just young, a very young girl, doing very well for herself. I mean, YouTubers, man, they hit it right. They're doing very well. It's funny, my niece has been doing YouTube lately, and she just started her channel like last month or in July, and she does mainly like shorts where she's like doing showing I guess what teenagers do. They show their life, and this is their glow up or this is their makeup for the day, the outfit of the day. This is what they're doing. And she had a video last week that popped off. Like the last time I saw, she was at 130,000 views. I was like, whoa. Like I think if I conglomerated all of my videos, aggregate all the videos together on my main channel, I don't know if we'd be at 130,000 views. So, there's something about the young people that just are able to capture the zeitgeist that old farts like us can have a harder time doing. If my videos get over 200 views, it's like, huh, amazing. Hmm. It's gone out, son of a gun. We're going to do the Cirillo method. From around the outside, around the outside. Where does she? We got her there. We got her there. We got her there. I mean, so her success in that video has jumped her subscriber count from like, so I think something like 40 subscribers to 350 subscribers. So it's like, took me probably a year to get 350 subscribers. Hmm. So now one thing about this coffee, the coffee, because it has the milk, oh, look at that, just fell off, has the milk in it. I feel like my palate is a little bit more deadened. A little bit, when you drink milk, it kind of coats your palate. I feel it has done that. But it is a tasty, it's very pleasant. Like it's not, there's no off flavors, there's no defects, there's none of that harshness that you get from a lot of commercial coffees. This is actually pretty darn good, which is really high praise. Really high praise. I'm feeling that I like this one better, the Connecticut, if I was to choose between the two. Like as you saw, it fell off, right? The ash fell off, right? And it's smoking. It's drawing faster, easier, lighter than this one. It feels slightly more springy than this one. It's almost like it really is. I mean, it is a different cigar, but I'm wondering, like, that's what I meant, like earlier, like, should this really take the marquee of this? I know one of the guys out there really doesn't like these at all, but does like this, I imagine. Devin, I am trying to keep your admonitions in mind to not go too fast. Now, despite me saying that I think this one I like this one more, that doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying this one. I am enjoying this one quite a bit. It's just different. They're actually so different. I'm really surprised how different they are. So how's your week been? Anything interesting happened? My week's been fairly quiet. We had what was it? Tuesday. We had the debates. How'd you like the debates? You know, I'm really was it last night? I don't remember when it was. Whenever it was, I think it was last night, wasn't it? Anyway, I was watching Fox News today, or reading Fox News website, because you know what? I thought Kamala could have done a lot better. Like, you know, Trump was really one of those guys. He's just out there. He's doing his thing. Like, he's all like ignoring her. He's all like, I'm not even going to look at this woman. And whatever she says, I will not even acknowledge her existence. Where Kamala's all like looking at him, reacting. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You should not be reacting. If you want to goad him, you should like ignore him and like really piss him off. So I personally did not think she did great. Evidently, I'm totally wrong, right? Like I was watching Fox News because I was interested to see what would Fox News say about it, and I can't believe how many people are like, he did so poorly, and I was like, what, really? I would have thought that they would have thought that I thought that they would think that he did great, but evidently not. Like, of course, you know, if you watch CNN or like MSNBC, they're all gonna be like, oh yeah, Trump was like this or was like that. But to see Fox News do it, I was like, oh, that's totally unexpected. Darren says, I like a funk in some of my cigars, like the La Palina El Diario. Oh, you know, I don't think I've had the El Diario. There's definitely some kind of funk, not a heavy pungency to a funkiness to this, but dark and brooding. This is just dark and brooding. So, George, George 1, I imagine that you are having, Wednesday, another wise man, and perhaps a martini. And George Whiteman, I was telling the guys at the beginning, I think before you came in, we're not going to have a show next week because I'm going to come down to the second anniversary at Capitol just to hang out and enjoy the evening as a regular person. George says, always use a match when you relight. I don't have a match. All I have is my torches. And George is having the wise man with the Federalist Red Blend. Ooh, very nice, very nice. I've been watching again the Only Murders in the Building. The very first episode of the season, I really was into. Like, I was totally like zoned into it. But the last two episodes, like, I'm kind of wavering. Like, I'm watching, but I'm like also looking on the internet, looking on the internet, watching YouTube, watching again, and I'm like, it hasn't the episodes 2 and 3 have not captivated me like episode 1. I don't know if you guys are following that one, but I think we've talked about a show called The Diplomat with Kerry Russell and Rufus Sewell. That's returning on the October 31st. And when I mentioned last week that I thought maybe might not be doing today's episode because I might have had to go to Denver. I was supposed to go to Denver for an event on Saturday, but I was not able. There's some things here that are preventing me from going, so I had to like back out of my appearance in Denver for the weekend. I'm kind of disappointed. Would have really enjoyed to go out there. A friend of mine asked me to come and speak at a coffee conference with him. I was really looking forward to it, but like, I've got a bunch of stuff here that just came up the other day that like really needs my attention here. So, sorry, Brett. Let me stoke the fire because we need to do some stoking of the fire because it's starting to get a little bit quiet. Ouch. All right, there we go. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We're still rolling. It's definitely, I feel like it's a bit lighter in body, a little bit spicy, sharp in a spicier, a little bit sharper in a spicy way. George says, I love the sound of the crickets, but I can barely hear them because I'm here and at the shop doing the Thursday night football, and Buffalo just intercepted Miami. Good. That's right. That's good. That's good. I don't like Miami. I do like Buffalo. Actually, I'm very neutral on Buffalo, but I do like, I prefer them over Miami. Sorry if you're a Miami fan. Devin says, I think Kamala was doing the looking thing because she was told to show more emotional, but she's no Trump when it comes to showman. Yeah, I do think that I think Trump is all about show. Like he would just like plow through and say all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was just kind of I was honestly sitting here outside laughing. I was watching him like I'm laughing at this guy because it's like he's some is just so preposterous, and he's just so like belligerent about everything. And I don't know. I was also seeing some of my friends who are Trump supporters. They're posting stuff up today. They're like, ABC was totally like biased, and I was like, ABC was totally biased. The only person that David and Lindsay shut down was Kamala, because Kamala was like, she was like, David, I want to address this point. And they're like, no, we need to move on, Vice President. I want to address this point. No, we need to move on. We need to move on. Whereas Trump, man, he would just be like, they had the muted microphone. He's just like, the microphone's off, but you can hear him because he's speaking so loudly, it's catching on Kamala's mic. And so they finally, and those guys never stood up to him. They were never like, oh, no, you already had your turn. That's enough. He would always just, and he was never like Kamala in that respect, where Kamala was like saying that I need to address that. He would just address it. He would just attack. He'd just attack. I'm attacking you. And I'm like, oh. And he just basically was like, you're a liar. I was like, oh, all right. That's rich, but I don't know. I was very, I really thought that he had better command of the stage, and just because by brute force, he was just plowing it all the time. Oh, it's Tuesday night. Now Tuesday night. Yeah, I can never remember these things. George says, Kamala set multiple traps and Trump leafed, I guess, I wasn't really paying attention because I always thought Kamala was just kind of like too nice. And I was just like, I wanted to see her get more vicious and more like attacky, like just be like, just call him out and be like, you're just a liar, or just whatever you want to call her. So that, because I think that he's the kind of person that if you really attacked him, he would want to like respond. I mean, he wants to respond. So I was like, you should just bait him more. And I guess the bait that she was doing was much more subtle than I was catching, because like, I mean, like, I just really, when I really, I really am looking to see what the Fox News world has to say about it. And to see them say that he did not perform very well, I was really shocked, really, really shocked. like I'm the kind of person that I would like to get, if I'm going to look at like sources of like whatever information, I would try to get sources from, I would like to try to get, articles from a source that is typically anti whatever, right? It would be like, it's easy to find articles in favor of Trump, let's say at OAN or Breitbart, right? But to find articles pro-Trump in like CNN or MSNBC, that's something. It'd be like, oh, that's something to pay attention to. So to see someone like Fox News be like, yeah, he didn't do well, it was like, wow, that's, to me, that has a little bit more weight than, CNN saying, oh yeah, Trump did poorly. Yeah, of course they're going to say that. George says, oh, great, we will have a DJ, plenty of food, and really terrific cigar specials, including a special kit that includes a never-before-released stick. Oh, that could be a show, a future show, cigar. Devin says, probably because he couldn't stay on topic. Yeah, I mean, well, I got to say, it's like he was just like, there's the questions being asked. And then there's what Trump wants to talk about. And that's all that mattered to him. He's like, this is what I'm going to talk about. And I don't care what you say. And if you try to pin me down, I'm just going to dance around it. I was like, wow, this guy's just like, most people would like, respond in some way to whatever's being posed to them. He's just like, I'm just going to go around you. And I was like, all right, well, all right, all right. That just makes it much more entertaining, because I think that if everybody was like, being nice and being like, okay, well, this is my plan and blah, 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 blah. It's just kind of like, who wants to watch this? What time is the event next Thursday? I think it starts at 7. Is that correct? Or maybe 6? But George, if you come down, man, I mean, come down at any time. I'm sure we just start smoking and get a good seat and just kind of chill, man. Be chill. Oh, Devin says, hide your dog. I know, I got this. And by eating dogs, I was like, man, what is this? What is this craziness? They said today that there were some bomb threats called into like the Springfield City Hall. I was like, which makes me wonder who is actually calling in bomb threats. Like, who is so incensed by this debate that they would want to bomb threat Springfield, Ohio? I mean, is it angry Trumpers or angry Haitian, like, drug lords in Haiti? They're like, well, you're disparaging our people. We're going to like call it a bomb threat. Who's doing that? I mean, poor Springfield, Ohio, man. They're just this little town trying to make it and survive in the world. And now they're known as dog eaters. So crazy, so crazy. Rusty's with us. What's up, man, Rusty? On my way home from Temple, rehearsing for High Holy Days, keep me from falling asleep. Of course, man. So what are you singing? Are you singing things like In Kelohenu? Like, what do they sing in those things? And the only reason that I know, even though that I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood, like I was the only Gentile in a sea of Jews. Like if you flew over a house Christmas Eve in a plane or a helicopter, you're like, oh, that's where he lives, because that's the only house in the whole district that has lights on their house. Actually, some of our neighbors, when we moved away, I saw them. They were like, oh, we miss you. We actually miss your house because you're the only place that had Christmas lights. I was like, oh, that's very nice. That's very nice. But actually, I don't know. I never went to Temple. I actually went to Temple only once in my life, I think, for a service. I think a friend of mine passed away. But the only reason about In Kelohenu is because, I watched that one movie called Keeping the Faith, the one with not Adam Sandler, but the other actor with Jenna Elfman and the guy from Colombia, the priest who wants to get with Jenna Elfman, and then the rabbi that gets with Jenna Elfman. That's the only reason I know about that song. But I do like that song. I'm like, oh, I'm all about that. George says, Rusty, this is my last night back to school night. I was back to school night last night. A simple, oh man. 14 hours, goodness. All the favorites, and yes, I'm the only brown person in Temple. Now, what is the service? Is it for Rosh Hashanah? Is that right? That's what's coming up? Uh-oh. Hmm. Okay, we're resurrected. It was dying. It was dying just there, you saw. I guess we're gonna have to puff on this one, the Pennsylvania, a little bit harder than the old Connecticut. Now, of course, this Connecticut is from the Connecticut Relief, which is, I don't know, Tony and George might know better know better than me, but since this cigar came out this year, and I think there was a year where there was a foulness, they weren't producing this line of cigars. So this is what, 2, maybe 3 years old by this point. So I wonder how much of the aging of this cigar might have on the burn factor. They've been kept in the same conditions. Well, this one's been kept under my conditions for a very long time now, for several months, where this one has only been kept under my conditions for the last maybe over a week at the most, maybe 2 weeks at the very most. And I don't even think it's even that much. Mm. It really is now. It's got that weird smell, that weird flavor when you puff on an unlit cigar, or a cigar that's been extinguished. Back to the around the outside, around the outside. Devin says, if I remember correctly, there was a bad harvest for the Connecticut's. Maybe the river flooded, and then there was a high demand as well. Oh, that could be. I mean, that's probably a big factor for sure. The night the lightsaber ran out of gas. I have a high midichlorian count. It shall not go out. The power of the light of the Jedi shall never be extinguished. Although this doesn't really look like a Jedi's lightsaber, right? This looks more like a Sith saber. The power of the dark side, right? Like it's kind of a black looking saber with these prongs to like poke you with it. Like if you can't if you can't ignite, you can just stab the person with it. I can stab Mace Windu with it. Uh-oh. Hmm. For a moment, I thought this was going to, but still rolling, and still have not lost. I have not been very gentle in the way I've held this cigar, and the ash still has not. Devin says unlimited gas. The interesting thing is that the other week when I was refilling it, like how you refill like a butane lighter, and it always kind of like and comes out, and it's full. This thing, I'm filling it, 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 and I'm like, man, this thing is just not working. And then maybe it was on the show that I did it, and I ignited it or tried to ignite it, and like all this gas is flying out of it. And then when it finally lit, it was all this kind of crazy flame. I think I don't know if there's really a way to not fill it too much, or I don't know. I don't know how it works, but like, man, there was a lot of gas in it, and I was like, could this thing explode? It's kind of interesting to do head to head. It's actually a little bit fun. So what I like about this cigar, the Pennsylvania, is that it is very free-flowing. Oh, there it goes again. That's twice. Still not falling out. So I think there's a looser roll to this one. It's easier to draw. So in some ways, it makes it more fun to draw. If you would describe drawing as a fun thing. This is more stoic in the draw. Like it requires you to give a definite pull. Perhaps a more thoughtful and considerate draw. Where this one, more puffy, the draw. George says, Devin, you might be onto something with a comment in 2020. With that comment in 2020, Nicaragua had 2 bad hurricanes. Flooding could have been an issue. Yeah, that could be. That could be. I mean, especially because, like, you know, you're like at least in Esteli, unlike Matagalpa, where I buy coffee from, is actually in the valley, right? So it is a valley, or a Condega is a valley as well. So that would make sense that there could be flooding in the fields that would have damaged crops in those years. I'm going to say we're actually burning. Probably looks like we're burning more or less at the same rate. We're actually burning at the same rate, but the experience between the two is very different. Lighter draw, feels like a lighter roll, a less tight roll, and the ash is just falling off at precipitous rates. Where this one, tighter, feels thicker, and has not dropped its ash. Now, there are still some quantities of this Connecticut Broadleaf version of the CroMagnons floating around the cigar sphere, right? If you do enjoy this, you should probably it would probably serve you well to buy up as much as you possibly can, because they're very different. Both are quite enjoyable, but they're quite different in the way that you enjoy them. Devin says, it's about to rain here. I love smoking outside during the... Oh, I imagine you're covered. It is nice to smoke in the rain. Years ago, back in the 90s, my cousin, who lives in Hawaii, was renting this house with a bunch of housemates. It was one of these U-shaped houses, right? Japanese-style U-shaped house that had a center courtyard. And the center courtyard, the owner had covered with an open-air roof. And out there, they had a bed, a futon bed. So I would go and hang out there for like a month and just sleep on the outside futon. And, you know, in Hawaii, it rains quite often. And to be out there with the cool rain beating down, sleeping, man, those were delicious, delicious moments. So I hear you. I hear you, Devin. I hear you very much. Devin says, George, this Connecticut is in the States. Ah, yes. I mean, we do have hurricanes, you know, in Connecticut. Like we had Sandy, when Sandy hit New York City, whatever year that was. I mean, I'm sure that hit affected Connecticut as well. Although I wonder where, I've never really looked it up, but I wonder where in Connecticut these these places where they're growing the wrapper leaf are. Like I've driven through Connecticut, mostly along the coastline on either 95 or that other inland highway that parallels 95 a little bit to the north. But I've never seen an area where they actually grow tobacco. I have seen the tobacco they grow, the Pennsylvania broadleaf actually, that they're growing in Lancaster. Like if you drive, actually right now is probably the time to drive by. I was just up there, I was just up in the Lancaster area buying wood last week, and I did see some of the drying barns with the eaves that are open, air drying the tobacco. It's really kind of fascinating. Oh, it fell off. Finally fell off, and we are still kind of head to head. Now, I've talked about how they're different, right? How the experience is different, but as an overall smoking segment, first thirds, I wouldn't rate them very differently. I still think very good to very good plus is where both of them are. Like they're still enjoyable. Certainly the burn is different on this one. But the overall flavor experience and body of the two, like I would say these is medium full bodied on both. So in that case, they're very much the same. Overall experience, so far they're the same. So I'm going to rate the first third, and this is true for both. I'm rating them both at 8.5s. Now, we are getting some uneven burning here. So as you can see, that's a little bit uneven. So I'm going to hit that with a little bit of flame just to kind of burn it evenly. George, I guess the question that Brian probably wants to know, on the 19th, will there be food? And I'm also asking because I will plan my trip down accordingly. Shall I go shopping and eat before I come? Now, George, one asked earlier about the nicotine thing, and maybe I'm feeling a little bit. Let me see if I stand. Will I have a reaction? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Hmm. The flames are dying. I need to readjust the fire to accommodate. Just by turning some of the logs to get better exposure. There we go. That's a little bit nicer. So where's everybody smoking tonight? You guys, I know Devin's outside, presuming under a porch. And I'm presuming that George is out, George 1 is out there at on his porch as well. And let's have a little more Chamberlain coffee. That's very pleasant. It's very pleasant. Pleasant and enjoyable. Devin says he's under an umbrella. Excellent, excellent. I've been trying to work with the county to get my licensing done for the new shop. And it's taking a little bit long. Like when I submitted the first of the several licenses that I have to apply for, And it's not like you'd apply for them all at one time. You have to do them in succession, right? You have to get one license, and then they have to approve that, which is the occupancy, and then they approve then you have to submit the rest, and then they'll approve those. So when I applied about 3 weeks ago, they said it shouldn't take any more than 2 weeks. And 3 weeks later, I'm like, what is going on here? So I called them up yesterday, and I was like, hey, I just want to check in. And they're like, oh, no, everything's fine. We see your thing. It's in the queue. It may be, check back on Tuesday or Wednesday next week. And I was like, next week? Yeah, next week. And then I was like, oh, okay. And because the woman said, before it should take 2 weeks at the most. And she's like, well, we're actually have a bit of a big backlog right now. So we're trying to work through that. I was like, okay, very good, very good. When you're talking to the agencies, you have to be very pleasant and very much like, you can't be all like, oh, what the hell is going on here? Just be like, all right, cool. Let me know when. They're like, yeah, you should probably hear something by next Tuesday or Wednesday. Really, I probably should have applied for this license back in June instead of August. But I was kind of hoping we'd be able to do like we did in the past, or just kind of applied to one agency and they took care of everything. But now that was back when everything was still manually done and you went in and you actually filled out forms and all this. Now it's all electronic. So everything goes through the county's electronic filing system. So it's all like, it's not like the old days when you could just kind of like, push things through. I miss the old days. So the downside of trying to taste critically while drinking a milk beverage is that there's something that milkiness kind of occludes the palate a little bit for the next few minutes after you take a sip. And also to combat the potential for heavy nicotine, I did go and have a fairly sizable dinner. Since I was down towards the city, I went by Pepe's, which is a carry-out joint known for pizza and stuff like that. And I wanted to try their wings. I've been on this wing kick lately. So I ordered their wings. They have something called wingdings, which is basically chicken wings that have like a batter coating that makes it nice and crispy. It's actually very crispy. I had the Old Bay, very crispy, very enjoyable. They had these Western fries, but they weren't Western fries like you think Western fries. They're batter coated Western fries, which kind of were like lame. I was like, that just sucks. I should have asked for the regular fries because the guy was like, well, we can just substitute for regular fries. I was like, next time, I'll remember that. Their regular fries are not battered. Like for a cigar that I tend to like cigars that have easier draws, and this one definitely is the easier of the drawing of cigars, the Pennsylvania. Where this one, the Connecticut is still tighter. But they're still burning at pretty much the same pace. So this one's actually a little bit faster now. So I'll pull on this a little bit more. So my niece plays for a school called Friends. Little soccer. They play soccer. And even though she's a freshman, she's on the varsity team. Not because she's super excellent or anything, but because their school's so small, the team is so small, they don't have enough people to have a JV team. So her and the girls that are younger, they're kind of sidelined in favor of the older girls. Like there's actually one girl this one girl's in her junior year. She's so good that the University of Maryland has already recruited her to come play for them when she graduates in 2 years. So there's some good talent on the team. And they played another team called Benjamin Franklin from the Brooklyn Park area, which unfortunately, the girls from Benjamin Franklin, this is their first time playing together. So they kind of got slaughtered 9-0. So, you know, the first few goals, all right, great, great, great. After the fourth goal, fifth goal, sixth goal, you're like, man, okay, man, maybe you should just sub in all the other kids because it's They're just getting, it's just, they're getting cremated. It's kind of like, I don't know, when you see a team get slaughtered, you're like, oh, that's not as fun to have your team win. You know what I've been wanting lately? I've been thinking about this. I would like to have a cigar that I can smoke on the regular, because I feel like I do have a lot of nice cigars that I could smoke. The problem is that they're all getting old. They're all older, or they're kind of special in some way, limited edition of something. And I'm just like, I don't want to smoke. I'm concerned about smoking through them for some reason. I kind of wish I had a lot of like revenges in stock, so I could just smoke those and just be like very contented and not have to worry too much about it. Like I have a bundle of the La Mastranza from the new RoMa Craft Maquette. I've now smoked about half of that bundle. I'm like, oh, now I'm going too hard through those. I got to slow down. Something else would be nice. George says, Ben Franklin was the first school I taught at from 2002. Oh, nice. The kids looked really nice. The girls seemed really nice. They just had that because they'd never played together. I mean, it's terrible. It was terrible to watch. Like, this is terrible to watch. All right, how are we doing here? Yeah, this is actually burning faster. This was burning faster early on. Now this is burning faster now. We went shooting again last weekend. Actually, finally went out with a whole bunch of guys, or six of us were out there. And we're playing a game called Wobble, which there's 5 different stations on the Wobble, and how it works is that you pull at each station. You do 5 shots, single shots each, and the house throws the birds out. And the one thing about Wobble that's different from Trap is that Trap goes, um, it can go at left to right, I think, or left and right, but usually at the same angle, same height, same trajectory across the spectrum. With Wobble adds this up and down action. So you don't know if it's going to go high or low, left or right. You don't know where it's going. So I think it's a little bit more challenging than Trap. But the interesting thing, we normally go like 2 or 3 guys. And so the pace of the game is faster when you have 2 or 3 guys, because like when you have all 5 stations covered, there's actually more time for you to just kind of take a moment to rest, to reset yourself, which I think is a little bit better. I think I shot a little bit better. I'm still trying to break the 18 out of 25 barrier. Oh, definitely, George Shem. I'm feeling the weight of the 2 cigars now. Despite having a fairly sizable dinner. Oh, here, if you're in this area, there's a place that they just opened that I've been hearing about called Sakai, which is a sushi and steak buffet. You go for lunch, it's $20. With tax and tip, they cost me $25. And they've got a fairly nice spread. It's fairly large. There's like, there's some Chinese food, there's some ribs, there's some wings, there's some other stuff, desserts, there's sushi, there's sashimi. There's a lot of food. Like there was actually steamed crabs with the whole bay on it. So you get crabs, you get shrimp, different types of shrimp, walnut shrimp, steamed shrimp, uh, fried shrimp. It was pretty crazy and a great price for what you get. Now, of course, the quality of them all isn't very high. Like it's not the best quality, but You know, when you consider that you can go around the same area where I live and you can buy a lunch and it'll cost you $20, anywhere between 18 to $20. If you compare that, I mean, it's, I think, a very good deal. New York strip steaks, but they're really tiny. They're like that big. They're like super small, kind of tough. You can eat as much. You can order them as much as you want. They even have ramen, two types of ramen: tonkotsu ramen with pork belly, or a seafood ramen with some shrimp and some imitation crab. Actually, very very enjoyable. How are we doing? Have we caught up? We're pretty much caught up now. Okay, good. I'm surprised at how pleasant this cold brew latte is. I would actually buy it again. Like if I was out somewhere and I saw it and I wanted to have a coffee drink and I saw that, I'd get it. Now, as we're going through the second third, I'm not thinking there's materially much difference again between the first, second, and first thirds. I'm still thinking very good plus. Which, when I think of RoMa craft cigars, like the Revenge, it's fairly in line with what I've had in the past, in that I don't find them to be the highest rated of cigars in the different categories, but they're always very solid and, you know, rather satisfied. Like, of course, you know that my favorite is the Revenge, and I think that only got like 86. Should these continue at the same pace that they are now or have been going, probably be somewhere right around there as well. Definitely easier drawing on the Pennsylvania. So tell me about you guys. How are your guys' cigars coming along tonight? Positive, pleasant, to your expectation? Disappointing, maybe? Can't tell which one is going faster now. Oh, this one. Oh, this one needs a little more pulling. My tomatoes this year have been a disaster. Like I had some tomatoes. There's a woman down the street that does seedlings. And at the beginning of the season, you can buy seedlings for like $5 each. So I bought a nice spread of different tomatoes that I would like to explore. And I put them in big planters, and I was expecting a good harvest. Like at the roastery where I used to grow them, great harvest. By September, it's just a cornucopia of tomatoes. Well, unfortunately, this year I put them here at the house, and so they're kind of outside, and the deer just decimated them. So I have very little. I've had like two tomatoes this year. Mm-mm. It was threatening to go out, but I think I have resuscitated it. So getting a little bit of split on the ash on the Connecticut. Oh yeah, yeah, George, I can definitely feel it. Tony says cigars working nicely. I agree. I agree. Ooh. definitely the easier drawing of cigars is the Connecticut, is the Pennsylvania. So because we're smoking two cigars tonight, I would have to say that I'm probably smoking faster than I normally do because I'm trying to keep both burning, or at least pacing them at the same time. I'm thinking, maybe. I don't know what you guys think, but that's my theory at the moment, working theory. Brian says he's having the Intemperance EC 18 Faith 5x50. I'm enjoying it. Started it at some time after the shows, oh, at the same time as the show, smoking slow for some. I know, that's the interesting thing. Like, when it comes to this show, most of the time, the one cigar will last the entire 2 hours. When I'm smoking casually, maybe an hour. If I was able to smoke at this pace, at the show pace, with my regular cigars, I'd probably smoke half. I would have smoked half the cigars I smoke. But I'm actually at a very slow pace for cigars in 2024. I used to smoke quite a lot. Like in 2015, when I started tracking the cigars, I would smoke. That first year that I started tracking, I think we hit over 500. It has never hit that quantity ever since. This year, it took a long time to even hit 100. My pace this year has been very, very slow. I think it has to do with the fact that we don't have a home shop to smoke in like we used to. Because back in the day, we would be at the shop like 6, 7 days a week. Tony says, Devin, the COVID didn't wreck my palate. Oh, that's great. Great to see. The Paxlovid did really minerally in the morning. Oh yeah, that Paxlovid, man. When I take the Paxlovid when I had COVID a couple times, they get that metallic taste. So rough. And then if I have a cold and I smoke cigars, there's a particular flavor that dominates. And I think it dominates over any cigar that I'm smoking. And I wish I could describe it. I never really was able to figure out the proper description. And I remember the first time I started smoking the Drew Estate, not the Adobe, but the Nica Rustica, the yellow label one, was when I actually had a cold. And so I always thought the Nica Rusticas had this flavor, but the flavors is a little bit different. I think I'm gonna, instead of drinking the cold brew latte, I have a Diet Coke left over from my dinner. What I like about Diet Coke is the phosphoric acid in the Coke kind of cuts through it, cleans up the palate quite a bit. Oh, we're almost pretty much head to head still. I see what he's saying. Devin said, I think my palate is off. Maybe I caught a COVID. Oh my. Devin says also, I didn't take anything. I'm pretty asymptomatic. I usually eat some sauerkraut. Oh, nice. Sauerkraut. Probably better than that horse thing that they were talking about before. Holistic medicine. That's always a good thing. Speaking of medicine, I went to see my PCP last week or 2 weeks ago. I went to see my PCP. She's like, you know, you've been taking this Ozempic for a while. Maybe we should switch you up because I've kind of plateaued. Like I started taking the Ozempic, and I kind of dropped like 30 pounds, like 10% right away, which gives away something, right? But I've kind of plateaued over the last couple months, and I'm not like some of our friends like Scott, who's like does a lot of walking. I'm not working the exercise into it, so I've kind of plateaued. And so she was like, "Let's move to the Manjaro." So I started the Manjaro this week. So we'll see. Maybe that'll help kick things along. If I can drop another 20, 30, 40%, it'll be something. I'll start thinking about mini marathons. Tony says, I always got a soapy, almost plastic flavor from the Nica Rustica. Soapy, that could be. Oh, we're getting a little bit of smokiness because the fire flames are going out. So I'm going to have to stoke the fire again. Let's have a look at that. Let's get this baby out. Oh, these Timu tools are not the best quality. And I'm going to go take that out. Reposition this one here. Oh, that's not doing too well. Oh, come on. Ah. Okay. Okay, that should do well. Better, I think. Devin says, for a daily, I usually get Warp G series, but I don't smoke daily usually now. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. The Warp G series, I'll have to try some of those. I'll have to try some of those. I kind of would like to incorporate the Quinquagenario into a daily smoke, but at $15 to $16 a smoke, it's a bit rich. How are we doing here? We're doing this one needs a little more. Oh, that fell off. I'm going to say we're done with the second third. And same scoring, 8.5s both ways around. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. That fire's doing nicely now. I got rid of both of those. So now we're head to head, head to head. Still a harder draw, like a little more pull, where this one's much easier flowing. I don't know what that means. Maybe they pack more into this one than this one. So I wonder if that means that there's less leaves in the Pennsylvania than in the old school. So does that mean it's a little bit cheaper to produce than this one then? The conundrum now becomes like when we get to the point where we're going to take the bands off, he's remembering which one is which, right? Pennsylvania, Connecticut, or Pennsylvania, Connecticut. I have to remember that my left, your right, is Pennsylvania. I guess the nicotine thing is I can definitely feel more nicotine, like George was asking earlier. Um, I'm sure that most of you have had the nicotine sickness from smoking cigars. I remember the one time, I've had a couple times with you, but two of the most significant ones. The first one I ever had, I used to hang out at the cigar shop in Hawaii. And I remember it was a Sunday. So I went down there on a Sunday afternoon. And by that point, I'd already become friends. The manager of the store had become a good friend of mine. And there were two counters. It was a long 1,000 square foot shop, long, like maybe 15 feet wide, or yeah, 15 feet wide, 20 feet or whatever deep. And I remember smoking the cigar. I was just feeling ill, man. I was feeling so ill. I was like, dude, I got to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, which was at the time, the bathroom that we used was actually in another building. So I had to go to this other building next door. And I'm in the bathroom and I'm sweating, man. I'm just sweating profusely. You know that whole like nicotine illness where you get all sweaty and like just have to relieve yourself. And then I came back and I was still like ill. I was like, dude, do you mind if I lie down for a while? So on the other side, there was two counters along each wall. The one side was, of course, where all the work was done, and then the other side was just kind of extra. And I just laid down on the floor behind that counter, and I slept for like an hour. I was like, I gotta go home, man. I can't last anymore. And I don't remember what led up to that. Steve, are you out there, Steve? Let us know. Let us know. We're looking for you. The other time I was still living in Hawaii. Well, our whole group of cigar friends got together. We're going out for dinner. We decided let's go out for a nice steak dinner, proper steak. Went to a steakhouse, ate a big steak dinner, big, massive dinner, right? Like all full, like you're all full, like you ate well. Good time for cigars, right? So one of our buddies, he was a big Cuban guy. He's like, I got brought some cigars. So he opens this box. It was the Sancho Panza Corona Gigante, these big and long, like they were Corona, maybe like 46, but by a lot, but like, 8 inches, 9 inches, some long, ridiculous cigar. And we smoke it, rich, and thick, and strong. And like, man, after that big meal, man, I couldn't believe it. I was just, again, sweaty. I was like, I got to go home. I went home and I was like, till the next morning. It was terrible. Those were like the two worst. Like, even still today, you'll still sometimes get a little bit ill from the nicotine, but those were definitely the worst. But, they're very different cigars still. Like I said earlier on, they're very different, but they are smoking well overall. This has gone out a couple times. We had to relight at least twice. This one threatened to go out, but I was able to resuscitate it. It burned a little bit unevenly. The consistency's been very, very good. Like it's been very consistent the entire time on both cigars as far as flavor and body and performance. I gotta say, I like the draw better on the Pennsylvania. A little bit looser, a little bit more free flowing. The Connecticut's nice and tight. Ah, Steve is with us. Yeah, out here packing to go to the mountains. Nice. Been listening. Are you camping or you guys still have that cabin out there? All right, I think we're to the point where we do need to pull the bands off. So we've got to burn your fingers. I think we should call this Skip Martin's Revenge because you just kind of burn your fingers every time you have to take the darn bands off. I do think it's a conspiracy of Skip being angry that, when he released the CroMagnon many years ago, people were like, you need a band, you need a band. He's like, I don't need a band. You need a band. I don't need a band. Finally, he's like, fine, I'll get a band, but I'm going to make it the most, insane band so that all you people that were like asking for bands will regret that. Of course, as far as I've known, they're the only cigar company in the world today that you have to penalize your fingertips to remove the band. He's a good brother. He is a good brother. He is a good brother. All right, let's have a little more of this coffee. Your sister bought a trailer, comfortable but small bathroom. Oh yeah, that's not fun. Sitting in the small bathrooms, like on the airlines. Airlines have moved to these new generation of 737s, like the 737, especially on the Maxes. Right, the Maxes are terrible. Some of the 37, 700, 800 series, when they reconfigure the cabin, they put these teeny tiny bathrooms, right? Like I'm all like getting inside the bathroom just to do the number one. And it's all like I'm glad I don't have to use the number two because that sucks. You'd be all like, help. How do you wipe yourself? I don't know. The bathroom I do like, and United at least. United, when they do the long hauls, they have the 777, the 200 series. The 200 series has a handicap bathroom in the center of the economy cabin. So it's this big door. You got all this space. It's like a double wide. It's a double wide bathroom. So you got all this space here between you and the basin. You're like, oh yeah, I can dance in here. I can make a TikTok video in this thing. But the nicest bathroom that I've ever been on, well, was on there's a Scandinavian Airlines called SAS, Scandinavian Airlines System. And I was flying, the first time I flew there, I was flying from Copenhagen. We were flying Copenhagen, Warsaw, Poland to Moscow, Domodedovo. And I remember I got a business class seat on that flight. I got upgraded, which in intra-Europe flights, business class means that you have, on a 737, you have your regular six across seating as you would have with economy. But between the aisle and the window seat, the other seat folded down. So you actually had this like big tray. So you weren't like totally squished together, but you were still in the same economy class seat. But on that aircraft, you go to the bathroom. The bathroom took up half the cabin, pretty much, like the whole side of one. And imagine, like on an aircraft, there are windows, right? This bathroom had three windows, and you could use the windows, and the toilet was there. And you're like, oh, look out the window. I'm sitting down. I'm stretching out. I'm looking out the window. That was kind of nice. I like that. Yeah, Devin says, tight as a tiger. Absolutely, man. And Steve says it's a 28-foot escape travel trailer. Oh, nice. Nice, nice. One of my friends has one of those like tow trails, the one that pop up, right, and that fold out for the beds. He just refurbished it. I was like, it's kind of comfortable. So not too long ago, during Prime Day, of course, Prime Day has all those sales. I went in there's a company called Anchor. Anchor makes those, little portable like battery packs, right, that you can use to recharge your phone and all this. Well, they have these big power stations now, right? And they had this one power station. I was like, it looks nice, man. It's got nice power, got plugs in it. It even has this extendable arm that you pull out and has these lights you can put out, like little flashlights that illuminate your area. And I was like, because back in the day we used to go camping. But since I got sleep apnea and I have this CPAP, once you have a CPAP, I don't know how many of you guys have CPAP, but once you start using CPAP, man, it makes your sleeping so much better. But you're tethered to this thing for life. And I mean, if you don't have it, you're losing your life, right? So I finally bought this thing. I was like, now I'm going to use this to power the CPAP so I can finally get back out in the tent and go winter camping. So I'm planning on doing a little winter camping this year. But not too far away, so that in case the battery does die, I can still drive home. But I think that will solve the issue. Because I like winter camping. I don't like summer camping, right? Because it's hot, there's bugs, there's more critters around. I don't like any of that. I like the winter camping because it's cold. I got all the gear that I need for cold weather, so I can, bundle up. Because one thing I find is that when it's hot, when it's hot, you can only get so naked, right? But if it's cold, you just put more layers and you're good to go. So still going at the same pace. So far, we're not finished yet, but I'm going to say it now. I think, the experience of the two cigars is quite different. However, qualitatively, I think they're very equal. The overall satisfaction experience smoking either of these two CroMagnons is about the same. So while Skip had to go and create a new cigar because they couldn't get the Connecticut Broadleaf, and my understanding is that there's actually Dominican, Nicaraguan fillers here. There's only Nicaraguan fillers in this one. So the blend is different, which we can tell by the way it tastes. But overall, the overall experience is pretty much the same. No, I think Brian would disagree with that, though. As he was telling me at one point that he did not have an equivalent experience with this as this. This Chamberlain coffee, man, I tell you, it's very pleasant. Rusty says, smoking both at the same time, it is almost the equivalent of smoking 3 cigars in a culebra at this. That's a question. Maybe. I have done that. Like when I first got my very first culebra, and I don't remember what brand it was. It wasn't Tatuai, it was something else. I think, or maybe it was Tatuai. I can't remember. I didn't really understand that the culebra really was meant to be taken apart and smoked individually. So I smoked them all together as one big cigar. And then eventually it came apart and I had to smoke them separately. But
I didn't realize at the time that it really was meant to be smoked individually. Brian says, 100% not a fan of the new one. I hear you, man. I hear you. I do still think that, like I said earlier, I have smoked the majority of the new Pennsylvania Broadleaf, and I do think that the one that I liked the best of the Pennsylvania Broads was the Corona size one. I thought that delivered the best flavor performance of all the ones I've tried, which is smaller than this EMH. The reason we're using the EMH today is because I found this cigar at Widmer's, and since this is the only one that I have that's of the old school, I had to find this one to match it. I bought one, but it was a different size, a little bit smaller as far as the gauge, and I think a little bit longer in length. And I was going to use that originally, but then I was like, oh, and I need to find the EMH to make sure that they're at least, you know, somewhat apples to apples. And speaking of apples, I've been enjoying the peach season very much this year. I've been going to the farm stand fairly regularly, buying white peaches, yellow peaches. And so I was there last week, bought some yellow peaches, got a selection of some small ones, right? Because, you know, you want to eat them right away, and you want to. Then I bought one huge one, like one massive yellow peach. And it just sat in the bag in the car for like the last week, and I totally forgot about it. And then yesterday went down to the farm store, and I was like, we need some more peaches. They're like, total, we're like, well, there's no more peaches. They're like, yeah, peach season's over. I was, peach season's over. What? Oh my God. And so luckily I found the one that was in the car. They're still in good shape. Nice and like soft, but still firm, but beautiful, rich, sweet flavor. Oh man. Because like last week, I also got some peaches from Sam's Club. You know, the Sam's Club white peach, you know, no, it was not pleasurable. It was just kind of like it needed more days to like ripen. But the ones you get from the farm stand, oh, beautiful. So I'm sad. They only had apples, Honey Crisp apples, which was good. It was very good. But, you know, when you wanted peaches, apples are a little bit too sharp and acidic for what you want. Devin says, Bixby Coffee apparently roasts for chim. Oh, okay, okay. Is Bixby a good company? I don't really know much about Bixby. But what a great account to have. Like, if we had the distribution of Chamberlain coffee, it'd be like, I would be smoking Quinquagenarios all the time. I've been working on that, the bar top for the new shop. So I got this piece of white oak that I'm estimating to be about 160 to 180 years old. My friend Matt the tree was on his property. It fell. I think lightning strike or storm or something knocked it over. So he had some guy come out with a portable mill and slabbed it. So he gave me one of the slabs. And I know I've talked about this before. 19-foot slab, huge. And finally been working on it again. So we took it to the mill up at Groff and Groff, had them plane it down to kind of even it out. And I sanded it down. So it did 80, 120, and then now at 150 grit. And I was talking to the guys at the woodcraft store, and I was like, you know, I'm using this, you know, we were trying a little test with 320, and the 320, man, when you sand 320, it's super like, it feels like butter. You're like, you rub it, you're like, oh God, that is beautiful. But I was talking to the guys, they're like, well, don't do 320 because 320 starts to burnish the wood. And if you burnish the wood, it's not so absorbent of your sealant. So I was like, okay. I said, what should I be using? No more than 180. So yesterday went out there, finished up to 180. So it's nice and it's smooth enough, right? And now there's a bunch of course, like little insect holes. So got to fill those using this thing called Star Bond, which is a two-part solution where you take the filler and you kind of fill the hole, and then there's a spray that you spray the activator, kind of like a two-part epoxy, right? Something similar in that respect. You spray it on, and then it like hardens, and then you sand that down. I was playing with it like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, you get a little bit on your fingers, and your fingers start to burn, and it doesn't want to come off. It's not like crazy glue; you can kind of get it off. Like it doesn't want to come off for like 2 days. You're like, oh, you got all this like crumb on your stuff. But went down to Woodcraft today, picked up some more of the Star Bond thick, because I got some pieces that are pretty deep, so I want to make sure they get nice and full. And then I got some of the activator, and then I bought some of the water locks. I used the water locks on the bar for the previous shop, the Café du Spro. Really liked it. I used it on a paw dog tub, which was, it's been an amazing product. I think it's an amazing product, like super hard wearing, waterproof. It's worn very, very hard and very, very well over the last 5 years. 4 years. So I was considering some other stuff general, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back. I know this is going to perform well for what I wanted to do. Just go with what I figured. I'm just going to go with what I know. So I got some more water locks. So hopefully get to finish those up over the weekend. But it's fairly large, and so like there's part of it needs to be trimmed off. Luckily, Matt today was like, I need to buy a track saw. So he ended up buying a Festool track saw, and I was like, ooh, dude, this is perfect. Now we get perfectly beautiful cuts. So I'm looking forward to play with this track saw. Now I have personally have Ryobi DeWalt sanders, like hand orbital sanders, which work fine. I use those to do all the smaller wood pieces, but for this one, since I'm working at Matt's shop, he's got the Festool. I think I probably talked about this, but he got the Festool sander, the random orbital sander. Man, that thing is just a beast. 6 inches, 150 millimeters. And this thing is just such a pleasure to use. It's so nice. So much less vibration. So smooth to operate. Totally worth it. And they had a special today. Get the sander with the box, plus another accessory box that has a whole bunch of like sandpaper in it. $550. I was like, man, that is a deal. It's expensive. Don't get me wrong, it's expensive. But the dream is to have a whole shop full of Festool. You're like, man. And then now that I've used them, it's like, oh, it's really nice. Like it's like when my friend lent me some of his Hilti tools. Like I used a Hilti drill and a Hilti angle grinder. Man, that Hilti stuff is so much nicer. It's like that. It's like the Hilti of like woodworking. You're like, oh man, this is just brilliant tooling. Devin says, digging deeper, West Rock Coffee Company bought Bixby, based in Arkansas. Oh, I didn't know they're based in Arkansas. Still kind of head to head as far as the burn. I think this one's burned a little bit faster than this one, right? More or less. I need to stoke the fire a little bit more. I might buy another wood tool because this Timu one's just not as precise. It's not as confident because it's a little more flimsy. course, it cost only $9. So there's that. So I guess the takeaway with that is that if you can afford it, the Festool is definitely the way to go. I'm definitely feeling the weight of the two cigars. I'm not ill by any means, but you definitely feel the weightiness of it. So Apple this week announced the new iPhone 16. I didn't really pay attention to the release. I think because this is on the 15 Pro Max, and I never tend to. I've always tended to like my typical buying pattern has been almost every 4 generations. So I bought the original iPhone in 2007, and then I went from the 7 from the original, and then I think the next one that I got was the 4. Then I got the 6 Plus. Then I got the 10, and then I got the 15. Because I don't think there's single generations are really enough. It's not changing it materially enough to really warrant the change. And I'm not even using the full capacity of this phone. Like this phone has, so I got the fully blown one with the full like terabyte because I can pay for it through AT&T and monthly, so it's like a little bit extra more every month. And this one has the ability to record externally. Never used that. I got the external hard drive, but never used it because I'm not using the camera on the phone to its full extent. Like what I don't really like about the phone's camera is that you control a lot of the different parameters, especially if you're using some third-party apps for camera. The problem is that you cannot. The only way you adjust the exposure really is by ISO as well as shutter speed. But in video mode, I like to keep it at a 180-degree angle, which means that if you're shooting 24 frames a second, you want to keep your shutter 180, which is about 50 frames per second. Should be 48, but 50 is the only choice you have in the system, which is close enough. It gives you a nice kind of cinematic tone, and the smoothness is just right that I like. You can go to 30, you can go to 60, you go to 120 if you want, but I don't like the way those really look. They tend to look more video rather than more filmic. But I'm not really. But you cannot control the iris, and the only iris setting, and I think that's just because of the design of the lens. You can only have uh, the iris is only set to 1.8, and it's like, which is great if you want like shallow depth of field, but I don't always want shallow depth. Sometimes I want to like get that greater depth of field. So I'm not terribly like in love with the camera on the iPhone. Whew, definitely feeling it. We're still going, man. We're still going. But I think we can at least score out our last third, which is really the same as the 2/3 previously. Now, I think that we're at a point where we're not going to really have much change before we finish the cigar. So now the question is really, how is the burn and draw? I think the burn and draw on the Connecticut has been excellent. Like, it hasn't gone out. The draw has been, tighter than the Pennsylvania, but still very good, still excellent. So I'm going to say that's an excellent. So give that a 9. However, on the one for the Pennsylvania, that has gone out a couple times. So I think it's just been very good. So we're going to say very good for that. Now, consistency between the two, they've been very, very consistent as far as flavor and as far as body. So I think excellent for both. But that does leave a point differential between the two. Now, overall, I'm going to say very good plus. So 8.5 for the overall score. Which gives us a total of 86 for the Connecticut and 85 for the Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania really only lost points, the 1 point, because it just went out twice. But I think qualitatively, the experience of both is the same, flavor and body wise. Performance was a little bit different. But that said, they are different cigars as far as the flavor experience they're going to have. They're not the same. Like I said, this one's a little bit darker, broody, maybe sinister, has kept that condition. This is lighter, a little bit more lively. Whoop, see, it fell out again. This one still doesn't fall out. It's like this one has only fallen out once. I'm suspecting that because it's a tighter roll, more tobaccos in this one than this one. Which reminds me of what Sanj Patel was telling me about how he packs his cigars. Can you believe this is episode 207? 207 episodes of the Coffee and Cigars live stream. All right. I think that's going to be it for today because I've pretty much smoked enough of these two. I could be getting ill soon, especially as we get down closer, where it's going to get a little bit heavier. Maybe with the tar, the closeness. So next week, remember, we're not going to be doing the live stream next week, the 19th. We're going to have a bye week because I'm heading down to check out the second anniversary of Capital Cigar and Tobacco. So if you come down, let's go down and have a cigar down there in Bethesda next week. It'll be a whole like what is it? A whole My Father extravaganza. So if you can make it, come down. Let's have a cigar down there. We can shoot the stuff in a much more relaxed environment, or maybe not so relaxed, but at least a more convivial environment. And then we're going to come back in 2 weeks on the 26th, I think it is, with the Arturo Fuente Opus X Rare Pink. Pick those up at the local cigar shop, and I'm going to see what Opus X has to offer in this special Rare Pink. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, glad to have you here. Good night to you, Tony, and Devin, and Stephen, and Brian, and George, and George. Glad to have you guys here again. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Hope you have a wonderful week, and see you, or wonderful 2 weeks, and see you next time.